when I introduced myself to people, I would like try to form that association of like I'm the guy that thinks chickens are hilarious, and the idea is like, well, who doesn't think chickens are hilarious? And they're like, oh, but I don't know. Sometimes I'll try to tell a chicken joke or something like that. But like, what I found is that if you can find a way to be memorable, and a friend of mine, Darius Kazemi, he was the orange shirt guy. For years and years, he would go to GDC, and every time he went out to a meetup, he had an orange shirt of some sort on. And
something that you guys need to know who have never been to a game developer conference is that everybody else wears a black T-shirt. Like that's the uniform of the game developer is a black T-shirt. So one guy who shows up in an orange T-shirt every time is actually really going to stand out in the crowd and be noticed.
Yeah, and and that was his thing is his Twitter moniker had a guy with an orange shirt, and he just he became associated in everybody's mind, and it's a good way to kind of it's a good way to kind of get network and to get out there and become known. I guess you want to use those associations however you can. And it works, So anyway, I just wanted to drop that kind of a plug.
Yeah, I talked to them about how important networking is and how you usually get your next job from somebody that you worked with previously.
Yes.
And that always makes students especially a little nervous because they're like, but I haven't worked with anybody yet. And you have to say, yes, you have. You've been working in groups for the last 2 years. So somebody out there is going to get a job. And then they're going to go, yes, I know a guy who can help us out with this problem.
Absolutely. Let me, case in point, the way I got the job working on Game of Thrones Ascent was that when I had, and this is funny, it's my very, very first paid contract in the entire industry. I went to a meetup and I saw this guy named John Radoff that was making a game, and it was something about, like I've got to actually go in about 5 minutes, but and this guy, he was making a Facebook game, and I'm like, hey, I'm a writer. I've never done a contract. I did this. I want to learn how to be a writer. I know I can get into spreadsheets and do whatever you need me to do. I'll work for super cheap, dude. And he's like, well, hey, we always need spreadsheets filled out for this stuff, for that stuff. It's like, we don't have a lot. He was a startup company. They were really, really small. The name was Disruptor Beam. And so I did, and I worked for like 3 months getting paid nothing, and it got to the point I was like, okay, I did some of this. I know, and I knew that they didn't have any money to pay, so I said, hey, look, we've done our thing. I've done my contract. I'll always be there to, speak well of you. You'll speak well of me. And, because they weren't going to be able to pay me more, and it was not good for me after I had that contract to continue, working in a craft where I wasn't getting paid as much as I should. You should always, value yourself, in other words. But so that several years go by, and I worked at Zynga, which is actually another one of those like, hey, I ran into somebody and I kept talking to them, and then next thing you know, I met them at GDC and we hung out and had drinks, and then later on I saw them tweet that they needed a writer, and I responded, and that's how it happens. So all that happens with Zynga Boston. I get done and I go talk to John, and I'm like, hey, what are you doing? And it was at PAX, and he's like, well, we're working on a game. It's a story-based thing in Facebook. I'm like, I just got done doing a story-based thing in Facebook with an IP. He's like, our thing is an IP, and I'm like, awesome, let's talk. And he signs me an NDA, and then he gives me the Dropbox, and it's like, holy shit, this is Game of Thrones. You're making Game of Thrones a Facebook game, and they didn't have a writer at that point. And I'd done this work for him. Really, he knew I was a hard worker.
Just to tie this all back together, because sometimes I tell this story as well. So he had actually contacted me privately before that to ask if I knew anybody, and
I remember.
He was like, "There's this guy. We've got John Myers right now. Is he worth it?" So people check up on you.
Oh, like, yes.
They check in with their contacts and are like, "He's new, but should I give him a chance?" And I'm like, well, I have my hands full right now with another thing that is called Jet Set Secrets that is no longer available to play. But anyway, I was busy, and I was like, yes, John can do what you need him to do. But so, yes, it's all about networking, and not just who you know, but like who they know and who they are going to ask you. And so you can't, like, burning bridges. Don't burn bridges.
No, don't. Yeah, be really careful about that.
All right, so quickly before you go, because you said 5 minutes. We've already had 5 minutes. I know you're doing a Kickstarter right now.
Oh, yeah.
Everybody should go look at his Kickstarter.
Yeah, check it out.
Tell us again. Put it in the chat.
Sure. The main site is. Let me just give you the site, and there's a link to the Kickstarter from there.
Yeah.
And if you guys have, I'm sorry, I do that sometimes. If folks have, played Bastion by Supergiant, it's a kind of a famous indie game. The narrator voice in that is going to be in this game, codenamed Sickness. We got him to play the first sort of Bond villain character, and that's one of the big hypes about this. I can't. Actually, I can say. I mean, we're not recording right now, right?
Oh, we are right now, but I can stop it if you want.
Yeah, actually, let's stop it before so I can tell you something really cool.
Yeah, hang on. And this is how the game industry goes.
Yes.
And board. All right, we're back. We've told all our secrets. We're back in session. And we had to say goodbye to our special guest while we were off air. He had to run off to a meeting. Even though it's 8:00 at night, he's got a Kickstarter going, and especially when you've got a Kickstarter going, it never ends. You're always on, just 24 hours a day for that Kickstarter. So it's a great way of, like he said, getting your name out there and getting publicity and really kind of getting the ball rolling once you have a product mostly done. But it is a little hard to just use it to start a company entirely from scratch. So anyway, do you guys have any other questions?
Not really. He was really interesting to listen to. Very impressive.
He's a very entertaining guy. Yeah.
Yeah, very impressive indeed.
Yeah.
Well, let's see who we've got left here. David and Patty and Sean still. Oh, you guys are awesome. Thanks for showing up. It's always better, he and I could go on for hours, and then I'd be like, oh, wait, we're not supposed to be talking in lingo. We're supposed to be talking so students understand. Okay, so David says, I asked him how to speak to writers, and would you like to expand on it? How to talk to writers. So my advice, oh man, I'm sad I didn't hear what he had to say about that, but...
I kind of had the same reaction. Actually.
Well, what you've got to do, in my opinion, as a designer, is look at all of the parts of your game as separate pieces that all are, like you've got a big jigsaw puzzle out on a table in front of you. And you're not, if you have all the time in the world and all the talents in the world, you can sit down at the table and put that jigsaw puzzle together all by yourself. But if you are living in the real world and want to get this done before you die, you enlist your friends to all come sit around the table and, okay, you work on putting, the cat faces together, and you work on putting the cat basket together, and you work on putting, so you split up the work as you're trying to put this jigsaw puzzle together, but you're the only one who has seen the front of the box and knows what it's supposed to look like in the end. So as a designer, you're like trying to help guide and say, no, the kittens are outside the basket, and it's yarn that's inside the basket, not kittens inside the basket and yarn outside the basket. And so you're trying to communicate your vision to all of the people helping you. But so that in mind, the writer is also one of the pieces of the puzzle, one of the people helping you put the puzzle pieces together. And you have to trust them to do their part and just say, okay, I care a great deal about how this puzzle turns out, right? I've got this vision, but I need some help putting it together. And so I am going to trust you with this piece of the puzzle. And so I'm going to communicate with you like the big points that I really care about as the designer. I really care that, and you've had me in classes, so I talk a lot about theme. And if you have a consistent theme, that's one thing that writers really understand. If you talk about theme with writers, they get it and they can help maintain a consistent theme. Even better than maybe you can as a designer, because as a game designer, it's so easy to go down a track and be like, oh wait, this is so fun. We should totally add shooting into this game that was actually supposed to be about collecting things. And, you know, it's so easy to get sidetracked by something that's feature creep. You add and add and add. And if you kind of need some guiding principles to keep you going. And that's one of those things that you communicate with your writer. And the writer can help you and say, you know, this character that we worked out together, we talked about a lot, you know, I thought we were all on the same page. He doesn't shoot things. He's a pacifist. He's out there collecting things, you know. And that can kind of help draw you back in and keep you focused in making one game instead of 25 different games all smashed together into one thing. So, and yes, absolutely. He said iterate, 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 and draft, draft, draft. For those of you who are writers, it's the same thing. One of the ways of doing project management that's very popular right now, because it works if you do it right, is called Scrum. And the basic idea is that you get as much of, you get it working as much as you possibly can in 1 week or 2 weeks. And just, you start out and get as much done as, like, beginning to end. So it's playable within a week. And then, like, that's your first draft. It's got circles and squares as your art, and it has no story, or it has a little bit of a story and, you know, whatever. But then your next iteration, you make it better. You start with what you've got and you make it better. And then you make it better, and then you make it better. So it's a matter of everyone working together, and sometimes it's just learning each other's language, like John talked about, where if you sit down and talk to people and ask them questions about their job and how it works and what it is that they do, and learn their language, then you can learn to say to them, this is the first iteration of the story, instead of saying, this is the first draft of the story, because they'll kind of look at you like, draft? One draft. I'm thinking, like, you know, sketchy, it's not really real. And, you know, you're going, no, this is like first iteration. Then they go, oh, okay, then I get it, and we can talk about how it fits together. So I don't know if that answered your question at all, but that's how you work with writers, is that you trust them and you give them the big points, and then you trust them to do the little points, and you keep in communication with them, absolutely. But you give them enough time to work, and you give them enough room and trust, and yeah, communicate, just like it's a matter of collaboration with any good team. You gotta communicate, work together, delegate, make sure that one person's in charge of, you know, who's actually the decision maker about this particular thing and who's not, that kind of thing. So clear lines of whose job is what. And if you've got a writer on the staff, that writer is in charge of the story. So it's a little bit hard for some designers to let go of that. And you need to think of it less as, I'm letting go of this favorite thing of mine, and think of it more in terms of, I am working together with somebody who's an expert who can make it better. Okay, so now the question is, what's the best advice he received about the industry? What advice did he give? I don't think it got recorded, so what was the advice that he had? What was his answer? Anybody? Bueller. That in order to get credibility, you have to create something first. Yep. Yep. Absolutely.
Yes, he was emphasizing that a lot.
People want to, well,
Getting
and
something interactive out there.
That's why I talk about Matilda Wants Some Foods, because he did not get jobs in the game industry until he'd done plays. He has, you can go watch little videos on his portfolio of plays that he's done and shorts and things like that. But he didn't get a job in the game industry until he did Matilda Wants Some Foods. So it's a little bit like, I don't know if you want to think of it like a musician, or it's the cliche with writers is that everybody says they're a writer. Everybody's working on the great American novel, right? But how much of it have they actually typed out, right? So when it comes to making games, there are a lot of people that say, I'm a game developer, I want to make games. Well, that's great that you want to make games, but what's stopping you? Go make your game. Like, you don't have to ask permission from anybody to go make a game. You just have to find a way that works for you to make a game. And for instance, Twine is the one that we're using in the creative writing department, where you're making a game. I mean, it's just as much a game as Matilda Wants Some Foods. It's just, doesn't have sound effects, but it's a game because you've got choices and you're interacting with the story instead of just sitting back and watching it happen in front of you, which is what happens with movies and novels and things like that. So as soon as it becomes interactive, in my book, it becomes a game. So yeah, make a game, and that's what people want to see. And I'm scrolling back in chat a little bit. What advice you received about the industry? Yeah. Be nice to people. That's my other advice, is work on your social skills, because they're not actually all that common in the game industry. And in some ways, people put up with a lot of, they'll put up with a lot. If you're very talented, they will be like, well, he's a jerk, but he does good work. There are a lot of people out there who have that reputation in the game industry. Well, he's a jerk, but he does good work. But nobody really wants to work with them, Whereas, on the other hand, if somebody calls me up and says, hey, I've got this guy, John Myers, he's kind of new, I'm like, he's good to work with. He learns fast, he'll pick it up. And yes, you know what? He's got the people skills, he can make it happen. So like you said, he's very personable and he's very easy to talk to, and he's worked on those social skills, and they are kind of underrated because it's easy to get away with just saying, oh, I'm a gamer geek, I don't have to work on social skills, I don't have to work on being nice to people, I don't have to work on how to give feedback in a way that people actually listen, I don't have to care about what other people care about, I don't have to make friends, I've got my games, whatever it is. The social skills, the soft skills, actually make a big difference. So.
Definitely.
Oh, Patty wants to know why Twine crashes constantly.
At least I know I'm not crazy. It's happening to everybody else too.
It's crashy.
I thought it was me.
And the thing with Twine is actually, I kind of don't want them to fix that bug because it's a heartbreaking thing I want you to learn in school instead of in the real world when you've just spent 8 hours slaving away on dialogue that was like torture to write and then have it crash, because that happens, absolutely. So save early and save often.
Well, now, but see, it's crashing upon saving. So
Right. Okay. So
I got
what
it
you
all the way through, even like through this week, and when I save it is when it crashes. So
so
what I'm doing is writing it separately in Word so that I've got a script preserved.
so as soon as you open it, as soon as you open Twine,
Yes.
have you ever tried as soon as you open it, hit save?
Yes.
Does it crash right away?
Well, I was doing it a lot in the very beginning, and recently, I don't know, to tell you the truth, but I know it's gotten much more persnickety.
Well, as your game gets longer, it gets a little more
Yeah. But I mean, I'm
difficult to work
freaking
with.
out about it because I'm got to finish that like tonight and this weekend, and I'm telling you, it almost put me under the table this week.
I know. It's the thing
But
is
I mean,
in the
so
real
I'm
world
doing
there in the real world there are deadlines too. Like you have to have your game done by Christmas or your studio's going to die. So like yeah.
So I'm doing it in Word in a script, and I'm uploading that too, just in case.
Well, it's always good to have backups, but especially when you're working as a contract writer, the person that you're making the contract with will specify, I need it in this format. And if you don't deliver it in that format, if you're like, well, you know, it was being really persnickety, so I'm sending it to you in Word instead. A lot of times they will say, that's not what I asked for, you don't get paid. So you just spent like 6 months of your life working on this thing, and they just reject it, and you don't have rent. So,
well, I think I have a latent graphics card problem that I've struggled with for 2 years on this computer, and certain things trigger it.
You've seen it just happen with me, right? So I've got the same computer you do. So
you know what? That you caught my attention on that. I went, oh my goodness, it's making her crash too.
Yeah, and you're not alone.
Everybody's having problems.
It's a matter of overheating. So
is it?
Yeah. If you can keep it cool, the longer you can keep it cool. Yeah.
Wow. Thank you.
So like literally
at a time, save it and walk away.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
And literally set it on ice packs. Set your computer on ice pack.
Mm-hmm. And I don't have a cooling pad, and this thing, it gets hot.
Yeah.
It really does.
But I mean,
I keep an insulated, I keep a thermal pack underneath it.
Well, that could be actually contributing it.
Yeah. Oh.
So what you want to do is go get some frozen peas from your freezer.
Really?
Put it between the thermal pad and your computer.
Sounds like a great idea.
Yeah, that'll actually help.
All right. Very cool. Okay.
So yeah, David, it's funny to have people from both the writing program and the design program here together, and you're all going, hey, we're all having the same problems.
Yes.
This is what game development is all about. It really is, no matter what side of it you're on. And the other thing, like, we always feel like telling people, I don't know, like 6 months into the program somewhere, like, it's like, okay, if you're really serious about this, like going and doing this, be prepared for like major illnesses and deaths in the family, and like bad things are going to happen.
Yeah.
And I don't see, it's just karma, you know, that we don't know how to explain it. Because at first, you know, you start thinking, there's no way we have this many deaths in the family. They're all making it up, right? And then it's like, no, actually, you know, for reals, there will be 1 week where everybody has some disaster happen. And sorry, everybody, that's welcome to game development. The thing is, it happens when you're making a game too, is, you know, you get close to the time when it's supposed to be delivered to the publisher, or whenever you say, yes, we're going to launch on this date, you've made it very public, something will happen. And like, I mean, I will only speak of this in very general terms because I don't want to jinx it. Like you start getting kind of superstitious about it. But at one place where I worked, we would invoke the hit by a bus clause, okay? Because you can't have all the information in any one person's head because somebody could get hit by a bus on their way to work.
Sure.
And so, like, occasionally someone will walk by and go, wait, we just realized, we've, I tell you, like, all this about, you've got to delegate, you've got to trust people to do their thing, but then you've got to communicate it back. Like, it has to be this constant back and forth because of the hit by a bus clause. Now, it's a little hard to say that because actually people do honestly get hit by buses or, cancer or terrible things happen. Take care of yourselves, take care of your loved ones. It's a little bit scary to go into game development because, I don't know, something about trying to bring happiness into the world. Karma kind of tries to pay you back on the other side. I don't know. But yeah, the tools, that's the other thing. Some of it we bring on ourselves is that everyone thinks that they can do it a little bit better than everybody else. So like each different game studio has their own way of doing it. They all make their own homebrew tools and middleware, and there's some things that are consistent, like, oh yeah, we're going to be a Unity house, but then you go in and you're like, hey, I know Unity, so I'm all prepared, right? And then you find out that they've got all these other extra things tied into it, and you're like, oh, well, okay, I got to sit down and learn 3 hours worth of software so that I can just do my thing that I thought I already knew how to do, but you guys modified it, so okay. Because everybody's got to do it their own way. Everybody thinks, and to a certain extent, this is me just whining about ego in the game industry. But there is a reality also that you're trying to do new things, especially in indie. Like John was saying that, at the big companies, no, you don't want to innovate. You just got to get it done. But at indie companies, you really are inventing this as you go along, and you're trying to do things that have never been done before, because that's the whole point. Because if it's been done before, then it's not any fun. So when you're making things completely brand new, it's going to be crashy, it's going to be buggy, it's going to be a little bit like riding a bicycle across a tightrope over a bridge that's falling apart, and there's no net, and people are watching you and hoping you'll fall apart. So. Welcome to the game industry.
And there's lava.
Yes, lava at the bottom. Yeah. So, the last piece
about the peas.
Yeah, frozen peas on the bottom of your overheating computer.
I even have a cooling pad that's about the size as of the laptop. So.
Yep.
Perfect.
There are like the things that you put in your camp cooler to keep the drinks cold.
Yeah.
Those are very handy as well, and can keep your video card stable a little bit longer.
Okay.
So. Yeah, and if you guys need to start dropping out, you've been here for much longer than the required time. But if you have more questions, I'm here for another 20 minutes or so. So
I'm good, thank you. It was fun.
Thanks for coming, Patty.
Yay! Thanks for asking. Thanks for answering some of my questions and giving me the neat tip about the
beans. Good luck.
That. Okay,
and
guys.
save as soon as you open it up. Save it. Because that
just
tends
keep
to make
saving.
Yeah.
Okay, I will try that. And if I survive the weekend, you'll know.
You'll make it. You can do it.
I can do it. All right, I can do it. Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye, guys.
All right, so now we're down to David and Sean, and both of you are in the game industry class, right?
Yes.
Okay, so one reason I wanted to invite you guys is because um, John is doing this indie through Kickstarter, and that's not something that we talk about a lot in the curriculum.
Really?
Well, I mean,
Well,
you can
yeah.
you can see how other people have built up their own companies to be what they are today, but there's nothing in there about like, is Kickstarter a good idea or not,
Right.
right? In the class curriculum. So
Yeah.
that was kind of an opportunity for you to see somebody who is like, hey, I've worked for some big companies and now I'm going to try and do it myself because that's the only way I'm going to get my story told, my game made. So, yeah. Any other
Probably-
questions?
Probably more often than not, that's something that comes later, right? Doing
Well,
something
yeah,
like
that's
that, you know.
that's kind of he had worked on some fairly large titles for quite a few years before he was in a financial position where he could start a game company with his friends. It's kind of a
Right.
risky thing to do. But on the
Yeah.
other hand, it's a little bit less risky when you're young and don't have like a mortgage to pay. So
That's true.
and I definitely tell people he talked about how like Zynga Boston just went away, and
Right.
and that's definitely a part of the game industry is that layoffs happen. All right, David. David says he has to leave, so
Oh,
thanks for coming.
bye, David.
Bye, David. So anytime you get laid off, you go back and work on your own projects that you can then show off to help get you your next job. And
Yeah.
also now with all of these opportunities to distribute yourself, like 8 years ago, if you wanted to make any money on games, you had to get into Walmart. Like you had to.
Yeah.
And the only people getting into Walmart were EA and Activision and like those people. Like no indies were getting into Walmart. It just was not happening.
Right.
And so
Yeah, I
now,
mean, it totally looked different back then, I know.
yes. And one thing to keep in mind is it's going to look different in 5 years from now.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
roll with the punches,
But-
take advantage of what you got right now, and publish because nobody's stopping you right now.
Yeah. Yeah. Right now.
Right
That's a good
now.
point. Yeah,
Oh.
that's a good
Well.
distinction.
Eh, who knows? Who knows? Like I love chaos, but other people are like, oh no, just tell me what platform and let's get this console war done with and who's better for what. And I'm like, can't we all just there are enough creative people in the world, let's all make fun things on all of them.
Yes.
But
Yeah.
you gotta one of the things you were here from the very beginning, so one of the things that I did like that John shared was like finding your strengths and building on them.
Yeah.
So
That's kind of where I'm at right now. Trying to hone in on the
Yeah.
things that I know that I'm good at and applying that.
final project will kind of bring it home because
Yeah.
it's very intense and it's very like you find out real quick if you hate it or you love it or what things you hate and what things you love.
Yeah.
And some of it you're going to just hate and you have to do anyway because that's why they call it work. That's why
Right,
they
you're not
pay
gonna
you.
love everything. Yeah,
So,
exactly. Yeah.
And sometimes you'll find out that you're good at things that you don't actually love. So there's that trade-off as well.
Yeah.
So like I love poetry, but I'm not a great poet. I'm just not.
Right.
So I'll go read
Right.
other people's poetry and write terrible poetry, and maybe in 50 years I'll come up with one good poem. But
Yeah.
I'm not gonna try to make a living being a poet. So
Exactly. Exactly. I know exactly what you mean. I'm very into physics and science and things like that, but I am very terrible at math. I'm never going to make a living doing that kind of thing.
Honestly,
but,
that's what happened to me too. I was a physics major for a semester, and they said, you know what, Wendy, you just have to. It's not that you're bad at math; it's that
right.
you're bad at math.
Right.
And
yeah, I know.
It's they were like, it's so weird because you understand these really the big concepts and you know how to do all of the integrals, and like we're not talking over your head. You just add 2 plus 2 and get 6. Like what?
Exactly.
And so it's this,
it
one
was always
mistake
the same
earlier
thing for me.
Yeah.
I always got the concepts, but it's the little minute things that would get
math.
Yeah, the math.
Yeah, well, and that's why I'm not a programmer either, is because I would take programming classes and find that I can do it. I can be a programmer, but it takes me like 3 times longer than everybody else. And I love programming, actually.
I do too. I want to be good at it.
I enjoy it, but it takes me 3 times longer than everybody else. So
yeah, I thought that it might come a little easier, I guess, with, I mean, being a good writer and editor, just as far as that comes, like being able to understand the syntax and all that stuff came real easy to me.
Yeah, I was going to say, it is learning another language. That's all it is. But it is learning another language, like learning Spanish,
Yeah.
It really is. So in some respects, it does help that you know how to copy edit and be like, oh, gotta find that semicolon. Where's the semicolon? Right. Or the missing bracket or whatever. And
yeah, like that stuff was not too bad, but.
And other people, like the people who have the real programming brain, they hate that. They hate looking for the semicolon.
Yes, I'm always helping those people usually find their semicolons.
Yes. And as a professional game writer, that's one of the things that I tell people, that, you know what, and in the last days of crunch, when you're trying to get it out the door, you're going to see somewhere a programmer just, I'm going to kill more. And you're like, you're missing a semicolon somewhere, aren't you? And they're like, yes, I can't find it. And you're like, just let me look. I'll just stand here over your shoulder, scroll down. There it is, And then they love you and will hire you on their next project.
I see.
It's all about those. Trick. Yeah, that's where those soft skills come into play, where you're like, I can help you out and I can work with you on this. Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah, no, I think I definitely have that aspect down for sure.
I think you do too. I think you've got some social skills. Not everybody does, but I think you're doing all right.
Yeah, I've been told. But don't usually stay quiet. But is there any? I guess really what I wanted to ask you too is is there any way that I can try and, like, do you have any tips for improving my writing? Because one of the main things that John was talking about was the whole, how there's different types of writing, and emphasizing that point, So, like, I often think about how, what necessarily are my strengths in writing, and how can I try and improve in that aspect of, writing for games, like that type of writing, because it's not something I necessarily have a lot of experience with, except for when we had to, when we took the class with you for storytelling. I mean, that was like great. I got a lot of good information with that. But
so what is that like? What you want to do when you, in a perfect world?
I'm exploring that. Yeah, definitely.
Fun people coming behind me.
Yeah.
Thank you. Late at night at the office.
Yes.
Okay, so writing.
That's like something that I'm exploring. Definitely, just because, like what I said before, I'm looking to see what I'm good at, and seeing what I can bring to the table to use to offer people.
Well, one of the things that is really valued at a game company or any technology company is somebody who can speak multiple languages. So if you can translate between departments And sometimes that even shows up in like job descriptions. Like we need somebody who can translate between departments or be a liaison between departments or something like that.
Now, is that like more in the matter of like just simply empathizing with people, or
you know what? It's a matter of talking to them. It's just talking to them and learning how.
Well, that's what I mean too. Like,
yeah, and learning how their minds work. I mean, just the classic example is that with programmers, when they say it's almost done, like you walk by and you're like, "Hey, how's it going? That thing that you're working on, is it almost done?"
Right.
They'll say yes. And they'll say yes every time, even though they haven't written a single line of code. Okay. So like in their head, yes, it's almost done because they figured out like how to do it, and so it's just a matter of I just got to sit down and write it out. You know, like so programmers think it's always almost done in their heads. Right. So when you hear that come out of a programmer's mouth, it means like you might want to say, "Show me what you've got so far." You know, hey, great, let me see what you got. And if they say, "Oh, come back later," then you're like, "Okay, then it doesn't actually run yet."
Right.
Or they'll show you something and then, "Oh, but I've got these bugs to fix and I'm working on them." You know, you want to see like, show me what you've got so far, and and I guess to continue with a classic example, when you talk to an artist. Mm-hmm. They will say, and you're like, "Oh, that art thing that that character design that you're working on, is that almost done? Because it's due tomorrow. You know, we've got this big meeting tomorrow where we're presenting it. Is it almost done?" And they'll say, "No, I don't know. No, it's not." And so they're like, "No, it's not done. I don't know what I'm going to do." And usually you can be like, "Okay, show me what you've got."
Right.
And if you've built up that trust with them, then they'll show you what they've got. And a lot of times they'll have like 25 different versions that are like nearly complete. And what they need is someone to say, "This one, finish that one," you know, and give them a little boost of confidence and say, "Yes, you're on the right track," or, you know. So for an artist, artists are never done. Artists always feel like they could do a little bit better if they had just a little bit more time. They could do a little bit more. They can. So artists are never done. Programmers are always done. But that doesn't mean like the product is finished.
Yeah.
So like just learning that different kind of lingo and being able to walk from one department to another department and not say the artists are not going to get it done. They're nowhere near getting it done. You know, that's not actually the truth. Like the truth is they're this close to being done. They'll be fine tomorrow. It's all under control. They just would like a little more communication if we had a meeting with so-and-so. And like the programmers, you don't want to walk out of that meeting with them and say, "Oh, it's almost done. There's nothing to worry about there." You know, if they can't actually show you it running, then it's really not almost done, no matter what they tell you. So, you know, you want to walk out of that conversation to the design group and say, programmers are having a little trouble. They were not able to show me a first, you know, proof of concept. They're struggling a bit. So we need to either simplify or make it more clear or have another meeting with them and talk about where it's at, or just, you know, move the deadline up so they don't keep thinking they have another 4 days so they can screw around. Whatever it is. Being able to translate from one department to another makes a big difference. And those are like the big obvious things. There are a lot of subtle, different, more like the producer will always be worried about it's never going to get done. It's never going to get done. So as a designer, if you can go to the producer and be like, "No, it's under control." I know you're worried, but look, it's under control. This is where we're at. You know, and clearly explain to them where things are, and that even though it looks like you haven't made a lot of progress, that you really have. It'll all come together. Don't worry.
It's pretty much a firefighter. Just running
well, and
or
being
potential
able to
bias.
talk to people and just
Yeah.
understand where they're coming from and what they're actually saying, even though they're using the same words a lot of times. They
Yeah.
might not actually be saying the same thing. And
Yeah.
it's amazing to me how many times that lack of communication is really at the heart of entire company collapses. Really.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
if you look at 38 Studios, it was a matter of communication problems. Just
Was it?
because the people at the bottom had a pretty clear vision of what they were making, but then the
Mhm.
people at the top would come in and be like, no, we want to make this instead. And so the people at the bottom would have to change course, and it would be like, no, give us a chance to actually finish what we're making.
Yeah.
But then they never, because since the people at the top didn't understand that they were almost finished, just give them another couple of weeks and they'll have it more together,
Right.
Anyway,
If there
it's
was
just
some more, yeah, I get it.
yeah, it's a matter of communication where somebody's saying yes, we're almost done when really we're not, or no, we're nowhere near done when yes we are, or changes at the last second, or assuming that the technology can do something that it really can't.
Right.
And sometimes knowing when to push the programmers, and like the more you know about each individual different part of making a game, the better you'll be at communicating with them, and the better you'll be at calling bullshit.
I
Because
see.
sometimes like a programmer will tell me, oh no, that can't be done, and I'll be like, are you telling me that you can't do it? Because I can't.
Yeah.
Actually, I know how to do that. So
Yeah.
either you're telling me you don't want to do that, in which case let's have a conversation about why you think it doesn't fit in the game, which is
Yeah.
what you're really saying.
Yeah.
Or get out of your chair so I can sit down and implement it, and we can stop holding things up while you say it can't be done, because I'm like, no, it's possible. You just add another button right over here, clone, plonk, change
Yeah.
the trigger, and we're done. Really, it's not that hard, and
Right.
whatever it is. Anyway, not that I'm bitter about something, but
No.
anyway, the more you know about how each part works, the better. Like, and just to reference the whole section that probably failed and didn't get recorded anywhere, some of the good advice that John had was,
Oh yeah.
always be talking to everybody.
Yeah.
No matter what your job is, always be talking to everybody, and make friends. Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting just how he said so many things were happening to him like that. He would just be talking to random people and
Yes.
continue talking to them and find some sort of opportunity. It's
Yes. That's
like,
one of the
some-
reasons we tell you to go to game conferences and things like that, is that you
yeah,
can have that opportunity to meet people. And most of the people in the game industry are really quite nice people. Like, we're all
Yeah.
here trying to make games. It's fun stuff.
yeah,
We all want to
Yeah.
make fun games, and we all want to meet fun people and have fun while we're making our game. But
yeah.
yeah, so
Everybody's there for like the same core reason.
yes, and it's not the same in every other industry. Like, if you go to if you're trying to sell a book or a movie or something, it's really hard to get to know people who are interested in that, or are willing to listen to your idea, or are willing to
Yes.
talk to you about what it is that they do. And if you go to a game conference with game developers, they're like, oh yeah, let me tell you. I mean, just like John did just now. Hey, let's turn off the record button and I'll tell you who we,
Yeah,
let me
yeah.
tell you the secret. Like, we can't keep our mouths shut. That's why they
Yeah.
have all these NDAs, is because we can't keep our mouths shut. We're so excited about sharing with each other about all these great ideas.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. No, that was pretty exciting.
Just network, talk to each other.
Okay.
And that's a skill. If you can hold a team together, especially when it's falling apart, at the last minute when things are going crazy and you've got somebody saying, you can't keep scratching, and you can say, calm down.
Yeah.
Where, where, where are your frozen peas? Then,
Yeah, exactly.
then it can, like, people will remember that about you, and the next time they get a job, or like the Game of Thrones thing, somebody really did call me up and they were like, can you do it? And I'm like, no. And they said, well, John Myers is here, can he do it? And I'm like, yes.
Yeah.
So it's yeah, it's a small industry in that sense, that people know each other and will compare notes and try to get a good team together.
Yeah.
So
It's interesting that you say the keeping the team together, because I feel like I did have an experience with that already, just in school. I don't know if you remember by any chance, but it was, I think you were the teacher in that class, and it was when we had to come up with like an analog game. And,
game project.
Yeah, yeah, and my team, it started out bad. I mean, I think we probably were supposed to have 4 people. We didn't have there was already 1 person missing week 1, and then I think it was down to maybe 3 guys, and then eventually by week 4 it was just me and 1 other guy.
So what was the game that you made? Because I remember it by games and not by people's names, unfortunately.
It was we had a lot of cards. It was a card game. It was one of those type of like inspired.
Yeah.
It was supposed to be a more simplistic version of a more complicated game like Magic.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, it was literally just me and another guy working on it last week, and we were able to finish it and get it done the best that we could. With the circumstances.
So those kinds of things are actually, not to bring it back to the class that you've got right now, but that's that kind of thing, the documentation from that class, the cards from that class, everything that goes in your portfolio.
Okay.
Absolutely goes in your portfolio.
Yeah.
So.
Okay.
We do try to give you real,
Yes.
I know as students you're like, this can't be real, and we're like, no, really. I hate to tell you, but this is real life. Like, this really is what it's like out there, working in teams. You don't get to choose who's on your team. It's great. Crazy things happen at the last minute, and one of the other teachers in a different department used to have a thing where, kind of in this, you're making a board game kind of in a month class, they would have something called the Wheel of Misfortune. And so in week 3, they would spin the Wheel of Misfortune for each team and find out what disaster happened. Like, so one of you has just lost their computer. It got stolen. And so, what are you going to do?
Right.
So they make up these fictional terrible disasters that you have to deal with. And in my experience, it happens all the time anyway, so we don't really have to give you an artificial disaster to deal with, because everybody's real life is as hard as it's ever going to need to be. But working in teams really is important. Pulling things together at the last minute happens all the time. Talking to people in their own language and getting to know them and not burn bridges. It's and make a game. Like John said, go make a game.
Okay.
But you're going to get a chance to get started on that here with Final Project. So absolutely. And think of it in pieces. Do your best to think way back to Kayvon's class, where he's having you think it all out in the boxes and triangles, and break it out. Break it out into pieces and parts, and be willing to sacrifice things that are beyond scope. You're gonna overscope it. You just are. I
You know, I
guarantee.
feel like I'm end up always being the guy who has to be like, you know what, guys, I don't think
It's
we can
too
do
big.
this. You know, every time. It's just, I don't know.
And
I would
that,
think that knowledge would, you know, pass along sometimes, but some people get a little carried away with
yeah,
their ideas, and I get it. You know, I
yeah.
understand that.
People get
But
excited. Actually, in the writing world, where we've been making entertainment experiences for thousands of years instead of just 30.
yes.
The phrase that we use is "killing your darlings"
Yeah,
or
that's so
"killing
good.
your babies," because
Yeah.
as a creator, you'll be making this thing, and there will be one or two things that you just adore. Like, this is the best thing ever. I invented this thing, and it is amazing. And
Yeah.
sometimes you can hear when other people are like, oh, well, maybe it's amazing, but it's not a really good fit for what we're trying to do here. And sometimes you just like, blah, 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 blah. It's the best thing ever. It's the best thing ever. I'm going to insist that it goes in this game,
Right.
So, yeah, in the writing world, we call it killing your darlings. You got to be willing to say, big picture, is this the right thing for the overall experience, or
Yeah.
does this really fit in a different? And that's really how you get over it, is that you're not killing it, you're just setting it aside for later.
Yeah.
It'll be very good in another game, another time, another place, but it doesn't fit right now. And sometimes that's easier to hear when you're giving feedback, is you've got a very interesting story there, or you've got a very interesting mechanic there, but it just doesn't fit with the rest of what we're trying to do here. And if you can, and that's one reason I am so much about, like, have a theme, have those things you can like solidly hold on to and bounce everything off of. Does it fit?
Yeah.
If it doesn't fit, you best to quit.
Yeah.
If it doesn't fit, you got to throw it out. You just can't. There's not infinite amount of time, and even there are some companies who will be like, some game companies who are like, no, we are going to take as much time as it takes.
Yeah.
And we are gonna take 10 years to put out our next sequel.
Valve. No.
And the problem is that the technology changes so much over those 10 years that what was, really creative and innovative 5 years ago, if they had launched, it would have blown everybody away. But since, they tweaked it and 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 tweaked it for another 5 years, then it's like old hat. Somebody else already did it way better 2 years ago,
Right.
So there's always this balance.
I saw that so many times where people do that.
And you're going to end up doing it in your own projects too.
Yeah.
I mean, it's hard to hear it. It's like, no, it's not ready to go yet. And that's why you need other people in the process, and the collaboration is so important, and you need play testing and trying it out, because you know what? If the play testers are having fun, seriously, get it out there. You can patch it.
Yeah, right? Yeah.
I have a friend who sat on a mobile game for over a year.
Wow.
Sorry, that was a tchotchke off the desk that I was just being wildly emphatic about. So he made a mobile game. It was fun. And it was finished. And he sat on it for over a year before he published it, because he wanted it to be just right. And so he was constantly just tweaking, and I want it to be just right. And you're like, you know what? Sometimes good enough is better, because it's out there and it's making you money, and you can always tweak it and add, and hey, look, we've patched it and it's better now. Everybody loves that.
Yeah.
Occasionally they'll be like, hey, you just nerfed the thing that I love, but
right.
That's a part of having a audience. The feedback and collaboration and stuff never goes away. I don't know.
Yeah.
Did you see the cancellation of Fez 2? Have you heard about that?
No, I didn't. What happened?
Yeah. You know what? I will try to find. I'm not going to be able to find it. Just type into
Okay,
Google
yeah.
cancellation
Okay.
of Fez 2, and you will find. What happened is that a reviewer on a webisode got snarky about indies not having time to give him quotes and said some not particularly nice things about them. And the guy who made Fez responded on Twitter, and they got into this big Twitter fight.
Yeah.
And the end of it was, fine, I hate all of you guys, I'm quitting game dev.
Whoa.
No Fez 2, I can't take this anymore. And
Wow.
so, yeah. Like, who knows? Maybe he'll be back
Yeah.
in a year
I mean,
or two.
that's,
He's a
yeah.
passionate guy who sometimes
Yeah.
changes his mind.
Yeah, clearly. I mean,
Um,
it definitely sounded like he probably made that decision not based on his brain, more emotion.
On the other hand, the game industry is a really harsh mistress, as they say. Like, people
Yeah.
do not pull punches. Getting a low score on Metacritic can kill your game. Even though it's
Yeah.
fun, low score on Metacritic and you're not getting a bonus. You're not getting paid
Yeah.
what you thought you were going to get paid.
Yeah.
So, and fans can love you one minute and hate you the next. And it takes a certain kind of, like, yeah, I want to be doing this. This is how I want to tell my stories. This is how I want to entertain the world. This is how I want to do it.
Yeah.
But you can also take these skills and use them other places. Like,
Right.
we try to give you enough of a foundation of just design skills and communication skills and things like that so that you can go out and be like, hey, actually, we can make this, drive-through experience way more fun and better if you just, fix the UI on the,
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's about looking at the world as a designer, and you can apply it in lots of different ways. That so if he feels like games are not what he wants to do anymore, fine, go design bridges.
Right.
It requires more math.
Yes, a lot more math.
But some people like that sort of thing. I don't know.
Yeah.
Anyway, it's been nice talking to you. I really have to go now.
Yes,
But
yes, me too.
If
Yeah,
you
I'm
have
sorry
any
to
other
keep
questions, email me, Skype me. Let me
Okay.
know.
you. Okay, perfect.
You've
you so much.
you've already gotten started in your new team for Final Project, haven't you?
Yes. Yeah.
How do you feel about that? Let me ask just quick.
Good. I feel good. It's actually kind of a little bit of a unique situation for me because we were able to, how we get put on teams, but you have a brief period where you can ask to
Right.
be
Right.
with
You can
people,
request.
so-
I kind of want to be
Yeah,
with these
so-
people. Yeah.
Yeah. So we actually there was a group of guys that Tommy, Rex, and Joshua Lip who we were on a team a year ago for what was it, the team building
Sure.
with Brent Cook.
Yep.
And we just did awesome. We did
Worked
awesome.
well together. Yeah, just
Yeah.
as a team. Excellent.
Yeah, I mean, we just really delivered. So we wanted, it turned out that we all ended up together in this class, so we wanted to work together. So pretty hopeful about that. Hopefully we can
bring the magic back that we had from a year ago, and see what we can come up with.
Good luck. Good luck.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
I'll talk to you later. I gotta go grade.
All right.
I'm sure
Have a
you'd
good
like to
night.
know how your grades are. Yeah.
Yes.
Bye.
Have a good night.